On the 27th of July, the people of Cambodia will go to the polls for an election that most people think will consolidate the power of long-term Prime Minister Hun Sen. His Cambodian People's Party has been criticized by some for being authoritarian and corrupt, but praised by others for ushering in the longest period of peace and prosperity for a century. I'm Teymoor Nabili, and on this edition of 101 East, I talk to the Prime Minister of Cambodia. Mr. Prime Minister, now that you are poised to go into an election and win a majority for the first time in your tenure that is without serious opposition, can you tell us how you see your policies evolving in the light of these circumstances? What will the next 10 years involve?
For my party, I want to win. But what I want more than this is political stability of the country and economic development of the country. And for the election to be conducted free and fair, just, transparent, and without violence. If we think of this particular moment, Cambodia has peace. And this is where Keith Sampan and Noon Chair led the entire cabinet ministers to surrender to me. They came right to this residence and surrendered to me directly. If we calculate until December, we have had peace for only 10 years. Agriculture has great potential in Cambodia. We cultivate rice only once a year, and the harvest is only up 2.5 tons in the rainy season, and more than 3 tons for the dry season rice. But we are able to export more than 2 million tons. If we try to convert the cultivated lands to produce harvest twice a year and increase the average harvest to 3 tons per hectare by solving irrigation problems, Cambodia's export potential will be comparable to that of Vietnam.
What incentives do you plan to give foreign investors to invest in Cambodia, and what assurances do you plan to give them? How much regulation will there be for foreigners coming into the country?
The first benefit for the investor is peace. I can also tell you that we give better incentives than other countries. We can compete with other countries based on the grounds that while other countries require foreign investors to have a domestic shareholder, Cambodia allows them to have 100% ownership. For additional incentives, we have the naturalization law. This legislation allows a foreign investor to apply for Cambodian citizenship. When they have Cambodian citizenship, they can also own land in the country.
Is the weakness of the US dollar particularly difficult because of Cambodia's relationship with the dollar and because of what it's doing to commodity prices?
This is an issue which Cambodia is very concerned about. Because in our country, more than 500,000 people are paid in US dollars, such as the garment factory workers, hotel staff, and company workers, and also foreign workers. If the trend of paying workers in US dollars continues, the purchasing power will further reduce and adversely affect those receiving wages. Also, 80% of our foreign reserves, amounting to US $2 billion, will lose its value. This poses difficulties for us.
Is corruption a problem in this country? Do you think it's a problem?
This is an issue which we've seen from the very beginning. But I can proudly say that for all matters relating to corruption in the context of investment, we have a forum between the government and the private sector. This forum, headed by the Prime Minister, meets once every 6 months. The value of decisions made in this forum is equal to those made in the plenary sessions of the cabinet.
Does that mean that you will introduce a law on corruption?
Allow me to stress this point. The anti-corruption law can be implemented. But my question is, can other countries which already have such a law effectively implement it? This includes the rich and powerful countries, which we consider strong in fighting corruption. The entire anti-corruption law will be passed. There has been a lot of discussion on this issue. I've submitted this bill to the National Assembly during its second term. But the National Assembly has written the bill to the government in the third term. And in this third term, we have not resubmitted this bill to the National Assembly. The reason is that in Cambodia, the submission of any bill has to go through the required procedures and formalities. So, at this juncture, do we pass the criminal code first or the anti-corruption law first? It's a question of whether the hen comes first or the chicks. The anti-corruption law is only one of many aspects of the law. Therefore, we have to first pass the criminal code. As to the delay of passing the anti-corruption law, I can tell you that even if we have the law in place, if we don't implement it, it's of no use. On the contrary, although we do not have the anti-corruption law, activities to fight corruption are already being carried in a good manner. In fact, we admit that corruption is still happening. But what is necessary now is to push for the fighting of corruption in a practical manner. We have to focus on areas where corruption is most taking place and try and reduce it and narrow the areas of corruption. In the past, the investors seeking to invest had to go through various ministries. But now, they only have to deal with one agency and they get a response within days. The stopping of the major illegal logging in Cambodia is the right step in combating corruption.
The ending of logging is attacking corruption. That's a policy point, is it?
In this point, if we let logging to continue, particularly the illegal logging in 1993, 1998 was massive and highly corrupt. I issued strict orders to stop the major trading of timber, but still, the illegal movement of timber continued, but in a small way, like using cars and boats. But the major corruption involving illegal logging in millions of cubic meters have stopped. I admit there is corruption happening in Cambodia. But other countries should not forget that there is also corruption in their own countries. For example, the Americans cry that Cambodia is corrupt. But when the American oil company Shell discovered oil off Cambodian seas, why did they invest in Cambodia? And at the same time say that the Cambodia is corrupt? The point here is that investments are done in both countries' benefit, irrespective of what they claim. In Cambodia, sometimes I am fed up. Let me explain. If the company from your country receives good concession from me, you will not criticize me because you are very pleased. But in the event you don't receive the concession, you will criticize me, saying that I am corrupt.
Prime Minister, we'll take a short break there if we might. You are watching 101 East, an exclusive interview with the Prime Minister of Cambodia, Hun Sen. We will be back very shortly. Welcome back to 101 East. We're talking today to the Prime Minister of Cambodia, Hun Sen. You spoke earlier about the importance of the use of land in the development of Cambodia and the allotment of land and the ownership of land amongst foreigners and locals. There is a growing amount of protest about the distribution of this land. Is there a problem with land rights, and how do you plan to deal with those people who complain that they are being robbed of their land?
In this issue, in the history of Cambodia, the value of land equals zero. In the period after Liberation Day in 1979, at the time, if you wanted to have 100 or 200 villas in Phnom Penh, you could have it. There was no one fighting for it. But when the country has achieved peace, the land becomes very expensive everywhere. Land disputes arise and land grabbing occurs. But let me inform you that in Cambodia, there are millions of families. Among those, how many families have land disputes? I think maybe 99% have security of land ownership, as they have land titleship and receive land distribution since the 80s. Therefore, for them, this is not an issue.
You've said that you want to stay on until you are 90, but eventually there will be change. Do you want to choose a successor?
The training of the young generation has been a gradual ongoing process. They have now been placed within the existing structures. We have trained more than 2,000 already, between 20 and 30 years old. Now they are working, but we still have not singled out any of them. And the decision will be made by the top 2 leaders and the small group of select leaders, should the unexpected happen. But we do hope that there will be no unwanted coincidences.
Do you see any of your family following you into politics in Cambodia?
For my son, I've encouraged him to avoid political issues. He studied in the States at the military academy in New York. And he studied in Bristol, United Kingdom. And now he has returned to serve in the army. So he's not involved in politics. and I think that I won't arrange for him to walk in my footsteps. Let him work in the public affairs sector. It will be better to not get involved with politics.
The ECCC, the work they have done over the past 3 years has progressed very rapidly. However, we have reached a point where the court is running out of money and running out of time, and they are saying that they need more of both. Can you help? Can you offer more money? And how do you think you can conclude this episode of Cambodian history?
This is the issue in which the world should share responsibility, because they want us to conduct a prosecution. We've completely fulfilled our obligations. On the contrary, everyone made a promise to give money. Now they are saying that there is a budget shortage. I think that this is the obligation of Cambodia, plus the international community. But as you already know, Cambodia is a poor country, and our help is limited. We request that our foreign friends involved in this issue and who promise to help to join us to be responsible so that this court will be successful.
What will happen then if Cambodia cannot help anymore and the foreign donors cannot help anymore? Where will this process finish?
I think that this issue brings us to the key issue that if the foreigners withdraw, the matter has to be vested with Cambodia to carry out the prosecution, according to what the law and the agreement prescribes.
Your view on international relations, is your relationship with the United States a satisfactory one, and will that change with the new president? And who will be your most important and international partners in the future? Will it be the US or China or Vietnam?
Let me inform you that the foreign policies which I have been implementing so far, the important matter here does not specifically refer to who are the important partners or not important partners. All are important. Cambodia is making friends with all countries based on the principle of respecting the independence and sovereignty of each other. Therefore, the relationship with the United States, we can say that it is at its peak in the history of Cambodia-United States relations. Before, there was no US embassy in Phnom Penh. But now the United States has a good embassy in Phnom Penh and also a good business relationship with Cambodia. With regards to who will be elected in the United States, it's up to the Americans. We will keep in contact with everyone who works in the White House.
What is the future of Cambodia's monarchy?
The monarchy in Cambodia won't change. The constitution prohibits anything that affects the monarchy. Any constitutional amendments must not affect the multi-party liberal democracy and the constitutional monarchy.
The newspapers are all talking about a possible abdication of the present king.
This is only a rumor, which happens within the environment. But it's very clear that the present king will not be abdicated. On this issue, I met with him several times. He has requested that I help protect the royal throne. I agreed on one condition, that he will not announce his resignation and not abdicate. He stressed that he won't because the constitution does not mention abdication or retirement. But there was a special case in 2004 of King Norodom Sihanouk when he retired. But our constitution clearly states that the king is the head of the state for life.
Can I ask you one quick question about your neighbour, Myanmar? The situation there, according to international observers, is a desperate one. What would you say needs to be done to make sure that the people of Myanmar are helped to recover from this situation?
Our foreign minister had a meeting with ASEAN and the United Nations and the other partners on this issue. We have appealed to Myanmar to open its doors for international donations for the problems that resulted from the storm and the reconstruction of those affected areas. We hope that Myanmar will create a good atmosphere for those willing to help Myanmar citizens. This is all we can ask.
So you agree that Myanmar is not doing enough?
Frankly speaking, I'm dismayed and still not satisfied with this issue. A few days after the situation, I appealed that the attention should not be focused on political issues, both on the side of the aid donors and the Myanmar government. We have to work in a way possible to help the people, but unfortunately, the planes and ships loaded with aid from different countries are not allowed to enter the affected areas. This makes me feel very horrified with what is happening, but it seems that no serious attention is being paid to the situation. Even though our foreign friends are prepared to provide aid, they face difficulties in getting visas. I think that Myanmar should seriously consider helping the victims.
Prime Minister, thank you very much.
Thank you.